Hey everybody, welcome to 6x6 episode 6. We're here to talk about end of season rankings, previews for the playoffs. It's an exciting time for CR6. We've got a lot to talk about. Let's not waste any time getting started right away with the best teams in CR6 to be eliminated already, to not make the playoffs, the divisional or national rounds. What do you guys think?
So I'm going to start off with Cal Poly. Uh, they're really good teams, totally solid. We actually played them in our last play day and lost. That's how good they are. Uh, but it's just it's one of the unfortunate things about the Lion group where it's just so competitive. Not so much Lion one, but still, in any other group they definitely could have taken the wild card for sure, or division, any other division, I'm sure. But yeah, they're super solid. They got four really great guys and one guy who's kind of this more support player. But and also I wanted to talk about another team from Line One, a team that I think kind of goes under the radar a lot is New York Institute of Technology. They got one of the best players in the league in Mac. He's this crazy Ash Jaeger main. Uh, and some super aggressive, really fun play style. Not fun to play against, but fun to watch. They never got streamed, but I'm sure next year they're going to come back stronger. Stronger than ever. Definitely going to be a contender for playoffs next year.
Yeah. I think, in my opinion, the best team to not make playoffs is actually somebody that a lot of people will disagree with me on, and that's Ryerson University. And the reason why I think that they, um, would have made playoffs in a lot of different groups, is because they are in Eagle Group 3, which I consider to have the second best top four. They're only behind Lion Group 2, and Lion Group 2 had their top four go through as well as the wild card in San Diego, South Dakota School of Mines and Technology is in Lion Group 2 and got the Lion wild card spot. Um, Ryerson University did not get the Eagle wild card spot, but I think that it's in large part because four other teams in their group are really like good playoff teams. Like I just don't think that I can say that about many of the groups. Um, Even if you take, I don't know, just randomly like Falcon Group 3, Texas A&M and SIUE are teams that I consider to be really, really talented and definitely deserving of playoffs. Colorado CS is also a decent team. Illinois Chicago, I'm a little less convinced by, and like that's their top four is two teams that I think are significantly below the two top ones, and I don't see that in Eagle Group 3. I think that all four of their top ones are really good, and because of that, Ryerson has a really tough group to get out of, and it's hard to get points and round differential to win the wild card when you're constantly matching up against teams that are that good.
Yeah, for sure. Definitely another team that viewers are going to have to look out for next season, and also players, for sure. But another one that I want to add in, if we still have time, I'm not sure,
Yeah,
is
we got
Washington
plenty of
State.
time.
Uh, Again, they didn't make the wild card, but I think it's really just it's really just because it's line two again. They're playing
Yeah,
against some of the best in the entire and if they had maybe a little bit more balanced, of a competition throughout the season, I could definitely see them making playoffs because they've got a lot of talented guys in that roster. And the fact that they won four games in that, it tells you just how much, how good of a team they really are.
yeah. I think it's worth noting that Washington State has 13 points over the season, and Ryerson only had 10.
Yeah.
So if I may have come across in a way that I did not intend. I don't think Ryerson is the number one team to not make playoffs, but they're up there. They're a good team that didn't. And Washington State might be the number one team to not make playoffs, and that's what has made Line Group 2 so good, and we've been talking about them
Yeah.
all season. Like
It's all pretty nebulous.
they literally have the depth all the way down to their sixth seed is a playoff worthy team.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, and that's just kind of, it speaks to the nebulous aspect of the teams that could or couldn't have made playoffs. There's so many variables that go into it.
Mm-hmm.
It's who you're facing, it's the other people in your group, it's the other people in your division. For the most off, it's stuff can happen. You could lose your best guy at the beginning of the season. You could lose your best guy for your most crucial match. You could. There's so much stuff, and because of it's all about consistency in this league.
Yeah.
Because there's so many variables, you have to have something working for you, and you just need to be consistent the whole year. You could have the 5 best players in the entire league, but all of them are taking like 21 credits. So they're not going to have any time to practice. So, yeah.
What's freedom? That's a false statement. Yeah, no, I don't really have any big gripes with any of what you said, just because I have an idea. I'm idealist on this topic specifically, just purely based on like I haven't really gotten a chance to see anything from any of these teams, and if I have seen anything, if I don't remember it, it's maybe just because I've overlooked it. And I mean, that's again, I've been more focusing on those top tier teams. That's a different story.
Yeah, well, time to move on from that one. It is, I believe Possum's going first, right?
Yep,
Rankings
I'm
time.
going
We're all
first.
going to do our top
He's
fives
on the
again.
chopping block.
I'm on the chopping block. Yeah, I'm going first, so you guys can all, talk trash about my picks. Actually, there's not much you can really talk trash about. I think we're all kind of in similar boats. We're on the same boat, but we're on boats in the same ocean, I'd say. So,
Okay.
number 1 again. Forget about that. So number 1 again for me, if you remember from episode 4, I had University of British Columbia first, and I'm sticking with that. I'm gonna stick with UBC going first. I could say they finished off the season strong, but they also finished off the season to a forfeit. So, who really knows? But again, I think they have one of the strongest rosters, especially considering they were in the most difficult group in the most difficult division, and I'm really super excited. They're one of those teams that I'm really, really excited to see come up against some of these other teams, like I really, really want to see how they, face. I think we saw a little bit of that when they faced Santa Cruz on stream.
Yeah.
But even Santa Cruz they're not even the top level of competition. They're a playoff team, but they're not the top, Right. And number 2 is UCF. And I mean, you can't have a list of power rankings without having UCF on them. They have the best player in the league, Cool Hand Luke, and they've got a crazy good supporting cast. Like, it's not just Cool Hand Luke. They wouldn't be there if it was just Cool Hand Luke. They got some guys that I think could be star players in a lot of other teams supporting that guy at the level of Cool Hand Luke. And I'm super, super excited. They're a team that we didn't see last year, kind of like UBC, or we didn't see really in the playoffs last year. I'm not 100% sure if they competed last year. I wasn't around, but
I don't believe that they.
Okay.
Oh, I shouldn't say that either because I don't remember.
Yeah.
If they
Still
did,
untested.
if they did, they were not. They were not an elite team last year.
Yeah, but again, playoffs are gonna be so wild, especially this year. The level of competition has come so far since last year, and that's it's exemplified by the fact that Ohio State is only 3rd on my power rankings. I mean, it's Ohio State. They have 5 guys. They're just total gunners. They had we saw them on stream against Ontario IT, which is a good team. And they did lose one map against Ontario IT, but still, I think I'm going to rule it out as a fluke. Personally, I'm going to rule it out as a fluke. I'm going to say that they're still going to make a deep playoff run. They have a lot of depth. They have a lot of guys who can step up in times when you need them to. And speaking of guys who can step up, Iowa State. A lot of people are kind of like half sleeping and not sleeping on Iowa State because everyone acknowledges that they're a great team, but everyone also can't ignore the fact that they haven't really been truly, truly tested. Personally, I think they're going to shine. I think they're going to prove all the haters wrong, and I think they're going to make a good run deep. I think next year coming in, when maybe they'll be in a little more of a balanced group, they're definitely going to be like, people are going to, it's just a weird situation with that, because when you have something as weird as the group that they're in, it's kind of boring because you're just like, I want to see these guys come up against tough opposition, but it's like no one can be super confident and not confident. I mean, these are guys that are top. They have the two guys, Shatter and Dusty Bender, are two of the best players in the league. They are top 5. Those two guys are top 5 in the league.
In every conglomerate statistic, kill death ratio, kill death assist ratio, and God, I can't remember the last one. Literally, I have the sheet.
Kill per game.
Yeah, kills per round. They between the two of them, the lowest ranking that they have league wide between them is 11th. So
yeah,
in all of those statistics, they are 11th or better, both of them.
Yeah,
they're really good.
It's like they might not be too high on elo, but I think in their case, you can really say
it's because it's impossible to build your elo against the teams that they've been playing.
Yeah,
honestly.
Yeah, exactly. And I mean, I've seen these guys play. I've watched their streams. You know, it's that they're the real deal. This isn't just they're playing. Yeah, we did. This isn't just they're looking good because of the people they're facing. They're like the real deal. I really, I'm so excited to see them. And last, number 5 is going to be GCU, Grand Canyon University. My team, Northern Arizona, started off our season facing these guys, and it didn't go well. Our first scrim ever this season was against GCU. We got smacked on a clubhouse. And, you know, we all know them from last season, you know, but I think they're going to come back and they're going to make a run. You know, people talk about Arizona teams. They always talk about Arizona State, you know, but I think Grand Canyon, you know, despite not, you know, being the biggest college in Arizona, could come through and make a serious playoff run. So yeah, I'm gonna leave it to you guys if you have any comments about that top 5.
We're pretty much out of time. If I let us start, we're gonna go way over. So we should just move right on into Matt's,
right.
and
yeah,
he'll be able to respond through his own list.
You started with the first one. I'm gonna start with the last one and work my way up, just because I feel more confident talking about the lower teams. Because I hated making this list. I7 heard me the whole entire time. I was like, I don't know how I'm gonna make this list. Why do you do this to me? I'm sitting there, I'm looking at it, and I was like, my 5th pick had to be like Grand Canyon. And you were saying stats don't lie, and I mean I've seen these guys play. I've sat down and actually watched them.
You actually casted our first scrim against them.
Mm-hmm. And
Italian.
So I really love to see a good team play, and they're a decent team. I actually was talking to them. I was like, how do you think you're gonna do in the playoffs? And they were like, I don't know. They were like, we're gonna go play. I was like, okay, let's see how that goes. So that was my 5th. My 4th actually is gonna be Texas A&M, and I could not leave them out. I needed to add them in there. Like I kept on going back and forth. I was like, who am I gonna have in there? And I was like, Texas A&M. Toss them in. And it was funny because I was looking at it and I was like, but who am I going to put above them? Because that was the hard pick, and it was I went ahead and I put Houston in there. And I feel like Houston, however, has the lower round difference over Texas A&M, but I feel like round difference doesn't say everything. I would have to say there's so much that you cannot say about just stats, but more or less about the teams themselves and how they perform. Just ignoring round difference, ignoring points, it's all that just makes them my like solid 3rd pick. I was trying to think about putting something else there, but I couldn't because I felt like I was gonna get flamed for it. But I also knew that that I needed to leave them there. So my 1st and 2nd pick, of course, these aren't going to be no surprise. I have Central Florida at the top and Iowa as 2nd. And I can't ditch these two teams when they're doing so well. But I also feel that there are some things that they're lacking in different aspects. We were talking about Iowa State, with not having really any big competition to make them really shine out and say, hey, this is proof that they are an amazing team. but I've watched them, and that's what makes me want to leave them up there in that second place, but not take first, because I have Central Florida, and we were talking about that right beforehand. Because the match that was just on Saturday that I casted, I was watching. It was the only match they played on Saturday, and I was slightly upset with the first map, and then what really changed it was that second map, and we were talking about it right beforehand. Was they went in, and it was 2-4 halftime. It switched. I was like, this is gonna be just like the first map. We were on Villa, it's whatever. And then it hit 5-4, and I was like, okay, we're still kind of on track. We've won 3 rounds in a row, and then it was 4 rounds in a row. Then it was 5 rounds in a row, and the game ended. And I was like, that really makes you think, what's really going on here? But we were talking about Sesame. He was put in some really clutch positions, and even though he was not able to hold up on some of them, the team was still able to win. And so I leave them at the top up there.
Yeah, this is what we were talking about before, is I think that actually spoke in a way to the strength of Central Florida. They definitely made mistakes in the game against Florida International.
Plenty.
Yeah. They're not a perfect team. Nobody is. But what convinces me that they are the number one team... Oh, fuck, spoilers. What convinces me is that they had Sesame in 3 clutch scenarios on Villa in the first half. So within the first 6 rounds of play, he was in 3 clutch scenarios. And personally, I think that he should have won all 3. He lost all 3. And Sesame's a good player. You take a look at his stats. He's very talented and somebody that I would absolutely expect to win in those situations. And so I think it was like a huge outlier that he didn't win any of them. And UCF still won that match. Like, if you can have that many mistakes, and then every other round is just flawless, and like you just barely even lose on your attacking half, like, that's what's so strong about UCF.
Yeah, there's just so much that goes into some of these teams, and just like I was even looking at like how they were banning. So some of the map picks were weird with that specific match, but their bans were pretty much on point, knowing what they wanted to get rid of. Even though some of them you would be like, oh, that you could have a better ban, they felt more comfortable with those bans because they knew what they wanted. They went in and they knew how they were going to do it. And I was complaining about how they really weren't adjusting for their attacks. However, they were still winning, and so I have opinions on it, but it's not enough to steer me away from making them my number 1.
All right, well, that's pretty good timing. So I will start mine off with my number 5 is Texas A&M, and A&M has been in my top 10 since week 5. They always have been a top team, but they never quite made it into the top 5 because I think that they are just like a very consistent team, and they never had like any huge standout factor that pushed them up in there, but they didn't have any serious drawbacks. And at this point, I think I'll talk more about this in a bit, probably after I'm finished, or right now. Now's a good time because I dropped Ohio State off of my top 5, and that's somewhat controversial. They're a very good team.
I didn't include them, so I don't blame you.
They're a very good team, though. But I dropped them off of my top 5 because when I watched them, and I was casting them as well, wasn't I? Playing against University of Ontario Institute of Technology, they played very, very inconsistently. Like, it was Clubhouse specifically that I was having a lot of issues with their shield play, and I just, it was too big of a weakness for me to see how consistently they were putting Cal on Monty, and he was having no success, and he is way too good with guns to keep putting him on a Monty that's not gaining you anything. So That was a big issue that I had with Ohio State that ended up dropping them off, and Texas A&M has just been so solid throughout that they slid up into that position, and they deserve it. They're a very good team. Number 4 is British Columbia, another slightly controversial, I think, to not have them in the top 3. Like they're the number 1 team in the number 1 group, and that's and they have a good round differential doing it. Like they have a very, very strong round differential in the strongest group. Like that needs to be very, very much like clear and on the front of people's minds. That's a huge deal. And they absolutely could make a huge playoff run. I would not be at all surprised if they win at all. Nobody in my top 5 would I be surprised if they won the championship. The reason that they slid down slightly from last time is it was their match against UC Santa Cruz. And like Possum mentioned, Santa Cruz is a playoff caliber team, but they're not an elite team. And the result against Santa Cruz was not what I would expect from British Columbia against a team that is not considered elite. So it was like a little tiny warning flag. And basically, the only reason that British Columbia is not in the top 3 is that the top 3 don't have any warning flags whatsoever. So that's going to be started off with Iowa State at my number 3. I feel like we've said it so many times that it's not worth going over a ton anymore. Yeah, it's Iowa State they look insane. 3 weeks from now, we'll be able to tell you 100% for sure whether they are. We believe in them, but we don't have like concrete evidence.
We have
yet.
our doubts.
It's an unknown factor.
To an extent, there have to be doubts. It's not that they've done anything to earn doubts. It's that there have to be because of the circumstances that they're in.
But I mean, it speaks to them that even with all these doubts, they're in all of our top 5s.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
They're just still there.
My number 2 is UC San Diego. They leapfrogged Iowa State, British Columbia, and UC San Diego leapfrogged both in either direction on my list. But UCSD takes my number 2 spot because I just think that they are looking incredibly strong going into playoffs. Like they've been picking up steam rather than slowing down. I just feel like every time I take a look at their results, they are thrashing everybody that they should thrash, and they are like thrashing everybody that they should be close with. Like they're
thrashing playoff teams. Like
absolutely. And that's the one thing that I could hold against British Columbia is that they had a win that didn't look like they were stomping somebody that was a playoff caliber team. And UCSD hasn't had that. They've been beating everybody. And the fact that their only map loss came against Houston, somebody who is deserving to be in the conversation for top 5 teams. I think I have them ranked number 6. I guarantee I have them ranked number 6. I was just looking at it.
And even then, that was like an overtime win. So
yeah, like super close matchup against an elite team. That's their only map loss, and UCSD looks fantastic going into the playoffs. And then Central Florida, I think, as many good things as we can say about all these other teams, we can't say even as many as we can about Central Florida. Like they just in every statistical in every stat that we measure, good lord, they're number 1. Like
can't ignore it.
Yeah, it's and I think that they're going to be a very clutch team. Like under the leadership of somebody like Cool Hand Luke, who has Challenger League experience. All right, we're back. My internet died in the middle of segment number 5, so we have returned the next day to finish this up. We're going to be talking about now a little preview into the divisional round of playoffs for the main league. That's 40 out of the 52 teams that have made playoffs are going to be playing this week, and we're going to see some of those matches on stream. And I know that Possum has some things that he wants to say about one match in particular.
2 matches.
Yeah.
The first one is going to be UC Davis versus Utah. I have experience with both these teams. Both of these teams are from Line 1. my group, and I gotta say, looking at this, on paper, you got to go with UC Davis. They second in the group. They had a really great showing against UCSD, and all around they're just a consistent throughout. But they did lose 2 maps to Utah on the final play day of the year. That's basically what got Utah in playoffs over Cal Poly Pomona. So I think it could surprise some people. This Utah team has come a long way since the beginning of the season. They've really improved. They just need to find out their fifth man situation. They've been kind of rotating between Squiddy and Dwarven. But if they can figure out like a good solution to the fifth man, if someone steps up or if they find another option, or if one of their guys really just starts coming through, I think Utah could make it a close game against UC Davis and potentially make a run farther into the playoff. The second one I want to talk about is Northeastern versus Carnegie-Mellon.
Mm-hmm.
2 good teams for different reasons.
Yeah.
Northeastern, a team that has a lot of star power. It's got 3 great guys, Canner, Youngbones, and GV King. Those are guys you're going to want to look out for. But Carnegie-Mellon is definitely one of the... If you look at their stats, they're super consistent throughout. All their guys, great consistency, great communication. What you're going to be looking for from them is if their communication isn't on, I think Northeastern could run riot. But if it's on, it's going to be a really close game. Definitely going to be one I want to see. And yeah.
I can actually personally give input on that. I played against Northeastern in Season 1, and you do need pretty good communication against them because what they did to us was embarrassing. We played, I think our second map was on Consulate, and all they did was Ying Dokkaebi smoke plants. Every single round. Didn't matter the bomb site, didn't matter what was going on. And we did not have the coordination to counter that. And they absolutely rolled over us.
I would imagine. That's a scary combo.
Yeah, I personally have experience, like I have a reason to fear Northeastern, and I think they're a very good team from having played them. But
you have a good consulate.
Yeah, for sure. And well, that's good and bad because I think Consulate is the least played map in Season 2. I haven't 100% looked through the numbers, but it's definitely one of the least played maps.
Yeah, for sure.
Maybe Villa less, but Consulate is not very popular right now, so there's a decent chance that it'll just get banned away from them. But then again, if they have a good showing on other maps, then Consulate's like a free, like force people to target ban against you. So we'll see how that works out. But yeah, I do think that this Carnegie-Mellon versus Northeastern should be a really good match.
Yeah, that's going to be a really good one. And actually, that third one, I wanted to mention it last night right before the internet cut out. It was the Florida International University versus Alabama. I mean, we saw them last week where they went up against Central Florida, and I mean, yeah, they lost, but I still think that the fact that they were able to pick up so many rounds against Central Florida and do well in certain situations was just you have to give them some credit, because credit's due where it's due. And if you're picking up rounds against the team that's top in the league and was at the top of all of our brackets, you have to give it to them, man. You have to pay attention.
Definitely.
And so I think that gives them some credit. I haven't personally got to see a lot about Alabama, but I want to see these two teams go to head, see that one team who's gone against that top team in the league who we're saying is top, versus going against someone who's a little bit more evenly matched against them according to stats at least.
Yeah, and that's 2 of the most explosive players in the league, Black Sand. So you guys are watch.
Yeah, at least on my end, your audio cut out there, but it was Black Senna and Digital, right?
Ardamento.
Oh, right. Digital's on Auburn. I'm stupid.
Slightly different team.
Yeah, definitely a very different team. Well, I was thinking of Auburn because Viper Group 3 is where Alabama's from. And actually, I personally favor FIU in that matchup because Alabama is they're tied for 3rd seed out of Viper Group 3, and in my opinion, Viper Group 3 has the weakest top 4. Like, I don't think that they have any team that is really top tier elite team. So that's my personal take on it. And then I guess really quick, we got like 10 seconds left. Those are our matchups from Viper, Lion, and Eagle. We didn't really come up with a great one from Falcon because honestly, there aren't that many great looking matchups in Falcon. A lot of them look pretty one sided. I guess it'll be interesting to see if we're right about that. But time to move on time to move on to the Open Division quarterfinals because that is just zooming by. Actually, there was even though it's going so quickly, the playoffs for Open Division they're actually delayed. So it was supposed to be even faster than it currently is, but I think it was a little too fast to reasonably get teams to find times to play like twice a week, every week.
That's hell.
So
I mean, barely finding time to just play one, and now you're trying to find time for two.
Yeah,
Play
so
some practice with games.
We ended up delaying the finals for 1 week, so they'll take place. Never do math on stream, kids. They'll take place on the 26th and 27th of April, the semifinals and finals. Right now we've seen the quarterfinal bracket. There's a couple really interesting matchups in there. I think the closest match for the quarterfinals themselves is going to be Texas A&M up against Central Florida, their D2 teams. And both of them had very good showings in the regular season. And I think that at least statistically they look incredibly evenly matched. I'm trying to find. Central Florida went 4-2 during the regular season, but they had the second highest round differential of any team to go 4-2, which means that they were actually, in at least one occasion, they were playing a tier above what they were ranked, if that makes sense. Like they had, I think they had one loss, and they were playing against a team that was undefeated in the Swiss system. So for them to have performed that well, that consistently, means that they were playing teams that were supposedly better than them and still performing very well. So they're definitely a team to watch for. And then Texas A&M is 5-1, and they had a plus 42 round differential, which was the second highest of any team in the Open Division. So that's why I think that matchup between those two in the quarterfinals is going to be really good, because I think both of those teams are top four within, and they're just meeting earlier than they might if the bracket had worked out better for them.
Yeah, speaking of the bracket, making some teams face up before they might, that's a horrible phrasing, but you know what I mean.
It's fine.
Arizona State facing off against New Mexico, but they're on the same side of the bracket as Cal Poly. And, when you talk about Open, the only thing that most people say is just ASU, ASU, ASU. But I think that the match versus ASU and Cal Poly Pomona, and I'm getting a little bit ahead of myself here, but if they do face up in the semifinal, I think that's going to probably the decider for the season. That's just my hot take, personally.
You think whoever wins that match is going to win the championship?
I think whoever wins that match is going to win the championship. I'm not talking smack about A&M or Central Florida, but I think ASU especially is really on a whole new level. And if Cal Poly has gotten to a point where they can beat ASU, then I don't think anyone's going to be able to stop. So.
Yeah, that'll be interesting to see. But that kind of covers, well, everybody except for RIT that is like ranked really highly, and they'll be playing in the quarterfinals as well. I don't remember their matchup, but Gogabek Community College, not Community College, is it? Shit, I don't remember. I may have just offended a large group of people. That would be really unfortunate because I don't know.
You already called.
It is
Alabama
the community college. Gogabek
I already.
College.
Oh,
Okay, it is a
heck yeah!
college.
All right.
Okay, so we didn't offend them. Too bad. Send them some love.
Yeah, so they actually knocked out Iowa State in the round of 16, and Iowa State was another. They had an equal rating, or like round differential and status to Central Florida, who I was just talking up. So Iowa State was a very good D2 team, and was at the top consistently. Gogebeck knocked them out. So not a team to sneeze at, but I do think that Rochester Institute of Technology is probably pretty favored going into that quarterfinal. So if I had to predict, I would say the semifinals are going to be Arizona State up against Cal Poly, and it's kind of a toss-up between Texas A&M and Central Florida, but I do think that they'll be facing up against Rochester Institute of Technology, and that, I mean, I guess just going by that, that's literally the top 4 teams from the regular season. Like the Arizona State went undefeated, and Texas A&M, Cal Poly, and RIT all only had 1 loss, and that's literally just the top 4 from the regular season. They look like they deserve it. Is basically what I'm saying.
UCF, what is it with Orlando and just? Wait, no, is that yeah? UCF is Orlando. It's just crazy. There's so much depth of players there. You know, I mean, their D1 team is crazy, but you look down, there's just no. They don't fall off at all. They just got gunners.
Yeah, that's
all
true.
The way
Like
down.
all of these teams that we've mentioned, basically all the teams in quarterfinals,
and ASU
are essentially like teams good enough to compete in Maine. Like,
yeah,
it's D2 does have some serious competition. It's going to be well worth checking them out next weekend when we see the semifinals and finals. But that's going to have to be it for us. This Frankenstein of an episode. We went from last night. We were all so tired. We were like loopy and barely making sense. At least I was.
It was 2 a.m.
now,
for me, and for you guys, it was just hitting 11, 12 o'clock.
Sorry about that, y'all.
Well, I was plenty tired at that point as well. So, yeah, we stumbled our way through it. We got it done, and hopefully there's at least something to make fun of us for in here. But that's pretty much all we got. So thanks you for watching. As always, you can tweet at us at 6x6 Podcast. If you want to see somebody or something on the show, tell us what to talk about, and we'll do it for you. Besides that, thank you so much for watching. Hope you guys are excited for playoffs. Check out the schedule in the CR6 Discord if you haven't, and get excited because there's going to be some fantastic matches coming up. I'll give you guys a chance to say goodbye. I usually just sign it out, but that seems rude. You guys should be able to.
I mean, I'm just excited for the end of these playoffs, dude. It's coming so close. It's just not soon enough. Not soon enough.
Yeah,
that's
I'm
all I
excited
can say.
To finally see the stunning conclusion. But yeah, I want to see all these teams that we've been kind of hyping up throughout the season really get tested. It's gonna be really fun. Some really fun streams to.
Yeah,
definitely.
Only time will tell, but we're out of time. So thanks you guys for watching. We're out of here.